And good evening, Steelers fans. Welcome to another edition of Steelers Hangover. I'm your co-host, Tony Defeo, and my ego is so big. And then the other co-host is Shannon White, and that's it. It's us from now on. So sorry, the ratings for last week's show were so big that we decided to vote Bryan out 2-1, and it's just me. It's just Shannon and I now. So how you doing, Shannon?
I'm doing great tonight. How about you?
I can't complain. I'm excited about training camp and what we have all the great things you're hearing out of the early days, the padless practices about the rookies and
not so fast, my friend.
Whoa!
Oh no!
Whoa! Bryan Anthony Davis's music.
Let's go.
Playing his music.
Who's back?
It was Tony's idea. It was Tony's idea.
Yeah.
Man.
We'll see. What is up, boys? Now,
how's it going? Welcome back.
It is great to be back. And after a week, and yes, in the woods with my scouts, and I had the greatest week, except for one night. It was Thursday night going into Friday. There's a lot of rustling going on. It's 2:30 in the morning. I said, all right, I'm going to just go back to sleep. And then I hear this more rustling right behind my tent. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that is, but light on. Let's start doing some BTSC works.
Wow, that's dedication.
I was up for, I didn't want to get devoured by a bear.
Well, that's always good.
You know, I mean, I can see that show, though. I can see Jeff Hartman and Dave Schofield talking about how I was devoured by a bear. And
a memorial.
Yeah, and the memorial would still get 3 thumbs down. How about
and you know how sports fans are. You know what they would say? Any word on who's going to replace Bryan? It would be the very first question. Wouldn't be about, oh gosh, he was devoured by a bear.
So let's start this up. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to the Hangover. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Alongside me is Shannon White and Tony Defeo. It is so great to be back. I missed BTSC Nation. I missed #Bad Company. I missed all of you, and I'm so glad to be here. And all this stuff happened when I was gone. Vidi Vici retires. I'm there going, I'm in the woods going, oh, what's going on? Next thing you know, Melvin Ingram. I'm like, whoa. Next thing you know, we're hearing that Steven Nelson might come back. Steven Nelson's not coming back. Steven Nelson says, hey, you're all lying. I'm never coming back. So it was lots of stuff happened. You guys did a great job. I had a chance to listen to the show. Good job on the quota, saying my name that many times. I appreciate it. In fact, you guys can keep your podcast jobs. So we're in good shape. But
another weekend.
Yeah. So no, I'm thrilled to be back. I'm thrilled that Tony is alive because there were some reports of his demise, and I was really worried about that as well. So we know that he's okay. And Shannon, you look better than ever, my man.
Oh, thank you.
Look at Shannon being the corner square on Hollywood Squares up there.
Yeah,
I feel privileged.
Quarterback position.
Yeah, look at that. So
I'm calling my own plays. I'm going to be, and I'm calling my own plays.
Now I've got a main regret though. Something happened last week that I wasn't here for, and it's killing me. And I've got to apologize. Happy birthday, Felicia! I know it's a week late, but happy birthday.
Right.
I'm so sorry I missed that. But hey, it is great to be back here. And let's get into it. Pittsburgh Steelers training camp, fellas. What are you thinking of so far? Let's start with you, Shannon White.
Well, I'm just super excited. Again, it's football and pads. I mean, without pads, in shorts. But everybody seems to be really happy, focused already. And knock on wood, no bad reported injuries yet. So I'm happy.
Tony Defeo, what are you seeing out of the South Side and now going into Heinz Field?
Well, I just continue to be impressed by the reports of like Shannon said about the focus and how a player like Najee Harris is just he can't get enough work. He can't do enough, and they have to tell, like we said in the summer, or earlier in the summer, they have to tell him to go home. And the reports you're hearing about Pat Freiermuth and even Antoine Brooks. I mean, I wasn't expecting to hear anything from him, and now you're hearing reports about how he's doing decent in the slot. And there's a player that maybe not a lot of people thought about as a candidate for that position. So, I mean, I'm just excited about the young guys because they're going to need to depend on a lot of young guys this year. So that's exciting.
That's something we are going to be talking about in the show. So let's save some Antoine Brooks talk for a little bit later because he is definitely going to come up on this show. And we are going to talk about on this show players that are shining already that you didn't expect to. Those guys, some of them making their big jump from year one to year two. Players that we're looking for to really show up. We're going to talk about players that showed up so far. I'm going to talk about one that showed up in a much different way and someone that keeps showing up in this same way. It is, first of all, Dan Moore Jr. on Saturday. 2 fights in a row, 2 plays, 2 fights, one with Isaiah Buggs, one with Cam Hayward. You know, a lot of times that's an earning a respect factor. And guys like Cam are pushing a rookie to see how far that they'll go. So that's not anything to worry about. But you also wonder with Isaiah Buggs, somebody made a mention today is why is this guy always getting into fights? What's up with Isaiah Buggs?
Right.
Tony.
I think it's a good sign. It goes back, it harkens back to what they were talking about in the spring during the draft or after the draft, or how they were trying to find more aggression among the offensive linemen. You saw that last year with Dotson. Of course, we've heard that about Kendrick Green and now Dan Moore, who's apparently really aggressive and ornery and trying to make a name for himself. My question is, I didn't think they were allowed to even really scrimmage without pads. So it's impressive that they're getting into fights without pads. That tells me that he must really want it.
Shannon, does that mean that he really wants it? Does that mean that he is so fired up and ready to go? Does that mean that he's being tested by the veterans? What does that mean with Dan Moore?
Oh, definitely. He, Adrian Clem, offensive line coach, he screened all these guys before the draft to talk to them. And I guarantee you, he's stressed that this is the direction we're going, and we're going to be mean, and we're going to be nasty. We're going to be physical. And he said earlier, if you ain't going to bring it, your butt's going to be on the bench. And I think that Moore took that to heart. He's in there. And so naturally the veterans are going to try to test him a little bit. And, that happens in the hot sun out there and these high temperatures, the blood boils a little bit and the temperatures flare, and it's a great thing. Like I said, I'd much rather have to tell a guy to take it down a notch than kick him in the butt to get him to, play harder and show more effort. So I think it's a great sign.
I think it shows a lot about Adrian Clem, and you mentioned him, Shannon. Adrian Clem said we are going to play nasty football. He has been said to be a guy that could really motivate these players. There was so much excitement when he came in and he was named. Now, there's no excitement from the media and us and the fans because they wanted somebody completely new. But when the players are giving that endorsement, that's a huge thing because they know what we don't know. We know names. Everybody just wanted Mike Munchak back because he's a name and somebody That's what they want. The only other, there's not many offensive line coaches that their names. For years, everybody knew Joe Bugle. For years, everybody knew who Dante Scarnecchia was, or Alex Gibbs, who just passed away a couple of weeks ago with the Broncos. There's not many names that right, as far as offensive line coaches, and you definitely knew Mike Munchak. I have a feeling that you're going to know, at least in Pittsburgh, you're going to know Adrian Clem for a while. And I can honestly tell you there's a lot of offensive line coaches that I can't tell you their names. I know a Coach Rad from the 70s and 80s because Tunch and Wolf talk about him all the time.
Right.
But there's not many guys that I know. We will definitely know this guy's name. And I'm going to ask both of you as we wrap this portion up when we're talking about the offensive line. Does this make you more confident about the offensive line? Shannon, we'll start with you.
Clem, to me, seems like he's going to take responsibility. We didn't know Sarrett. He was never hardly in front of the cameras at all. And after Munchak left, and McClem has been out there. He's answered questions about these draft picks, about their progress, and saying what he's already told them what the demands are going to be. And I think he will take for a stand-up guy, and also an ex-player. And I think that we, like you said, we're going to hear about him for years to come. And guys like to play for somebody with that aggressive mindset, and coaches like that. He'll be right in there swapping spit with them, yelling at them on the sidelines. And, that helps get them riled up, and it is encouraging. And I think he was a great promotion from within.
Now, I'm going to argue with Awesome Stuff 1983 here. Yeah, I agree with you. We want Munchak because he's good and proven, not because of his name. But yeah, we know his name. And that's the thing. If you know their name as an offensive line coach, they're good and proven. People are going to want Mike Munchak back until someone proves to be better than him. And I get it. He's not coming back, and that's fine. But you have a guy like Clem who you didn't know. He has an opportunity to make a name. So I get it. Offensive line coaches, you don't know their names if they're stinky.
Right. Well, it's like what Zach Banner said right after Clem was hired in the winter. He said, you don't know Coach Clem like we do. And you heard reports last year of how he was really the one working with the younger guys, and then rightfully so, because Sarah had to really, he had a broader thing he had to worry about. But we saw how well Dawson played last year. So, if he has that ability to connect with these young guys, and it's all young guys now on that line, except for Trey Turner, I think that bodes well. So that it definitely gives me more confidence that they can be better than people think they're going to be in 2021. Because I don't think a lot of people at this point have a lot of confidence, but I kind of do based on his personality and the personalities of these young players that they're bringing in with the aggression.
Well, here we go. Now, Michael O'Malley's saying, no, you know their name when they suck. You just never remember when they leave. Here's the thing, Michael. I'm going to say this. I can bet that 80% didn't know Sean Sarrett's name.
Right.
I'm willing to bet that. I don't think they knew their name. I'm sure there's assistant coaches that you don't know their names. And that's a possibility. You might know it because Munchak left and you wanted to know the name of the guy who replaced him. But a lot of people do not pay attention to the offensive line coach sometimes. Unless now people that are checking out this show in the off season, like a lot of the diehards, like the Michael O'Malleys and the Awesome Stuffs and the George Testons and the Snowmen and John C. and just the names that I'm seeing on the screen right now. But what they do, I mean, you guys are more apt to know those names, but the average fan doesn't. They really don't. So we've already established Dan Moore Jr. as a guy who's shining a little bit, and he probably wasn't completely on our list, but we're also gonna throw Adrian Clem as shining so far. I think we need to throw him on the list, and we've talked about him extensively here. We are going to talk about more guys. And do you understand that 10 days from now, we're watching the Steelers play football?
Right.
I cannot believe it. And we are going to see more of these guys. There's a lot of people that don't love the preseason. The preseason's my favorite time. And the reason that I really enjoy the fourth quarter of the preseason games is I'm looking at guys, I'm looking for certain guys because of this position that the three of us are in. We need to know these players.
Right.
We have to know who these guys are. I remember looking for articles because we were a lot smaller. Shannon, I don't know if you realize it. I know you were around a lot and you wrote a little bit, but 2 years ago, Tony and I, we knew, and Jeff and Dave knew Tuzar Skipper and Duck Hodges right away because we needed something to cover in May when they brought them in after that rookie camp. Mm-hmm. And so I read up so much about this guy, and there were people that were saying Duck Who.
Yeah.
There were still people saying Duck Who in September. Right. So, and I'm not now, some of you did know too, but we just have to know. We have to know who these guys are because a lot of the times we're looking for somebody to talk about.
Right.
And we watch the draft 1 through 7 because when we're covering it like crazy, but we need to know who these players are. And then it gets to the point where like everybody out here that are your diehards that are bleeding the black and gold will want to know who these guys are. Snowman says this, I do too, bad because some guys might make the team. Now I will say this, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. The guy that Shannon's in love with, James Pierre, I did not know who he was when I hardly knew. I mean, I heard his name, but I hardly knew who he was because we didn't have a preseason last year.
Right.
So that's one of the guys you're like, whoa, this guy made the 53 and they're not going. And then I'm reading that they just cannot risk putting him on the practice squad.
Right.
And that shows that they see something that we don't know, but there's people that had no clue who James Pierre was the entire season until they started seeing. I remember special teams. One of my buddies was saying, who's 42? That's James Pierre. But I didn't know who he was.
Well,
so
it's the same thing
go ahead,
with
Tim.
Carlos Davis too. I mean, they was talking about a defensive lineman that they were scared to put on the practice squad because he wouldn't clear waivers. And I'm thinking, I was thinking of a lot of people, but I definitely wasn't thinking Davis because we didn't have any preseason. We had no way of knowing that.
You
and
never
Pierre
sleep on Davis. Never sleep on a Davis.
And it's like you said, Brian and Shannon, there's so many of these guys that they're gonna want to see because they're gonna have to depend on them, like Bugs and Davis and Loudermilk, especially Davis and Loudermilk. They didn't have a preseason last year, or Davis didn't have a preseason last year, but we didn't get to see him last year in preseason. Like, how are they going to do if they're factored into the rotation on the line with Hayward and Tuitt and Alu. So one of those guys is probably going to factor in heavily in that rotation. So how are they going to respond? Are they going to are they going to what I'm trying to say? Are they going to dominate the guys that are third and fourth stringers in the preseason? That's kind of what I'm hoping to see.
Yeah, you hope so. Yeah.
So, gentlemen, let's do this. Let's go ahead and take a break. And we will be back right after this with the guys we need to see shine and the guys that are already shining. Now, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, all you've got to do is stick around, watch us stretch for about 5 seconds, and we'll be right back. If you're checking us out on Wednesday or Thursday, you're riding along in your car and you're one of our diehards on the audio only side, we love you. Thank you so much for doing that as well. Just do us a favor. It's so easy to switch on over to number 2. It's just pretty much a click and that's it. Nothing to pay for. It's simple as that. Do that and we'll talk to you right after this on BTSC's Steelers Hangover. Welcome back to the Steelers Hangover from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis, back from a brief hiatus where I took last week off to hang out with my scouts from my scout troop in the woods of Pennsylvania, and it was definitely a great week, but I did miss BTSC Nation. Thanks so much to Tony Defeo and Shannon White for taking over for me, taking good care of me, and taking good care of the show while I was gone. I had a chance to listen to it. Top notch, guys. So thank you very much. The bad signal did not have to go up, and I like that. The bad signal. We've got to come up with a bad signal now. So so let's get into this, guys. So much happened, and before we get back into the mix of what we were doing, a guy that we want to see shine. Actually, two guys that we want to see shine. Actually, three guys that we want to see shine. Actually, four guys that we want to see shine. All played for the Los Angeles Chargers either last year or 2 years ago. And that is Derek Watt, Trey Turner, Keelan Ballage, and Melvin Ingram. So we have become Los Angeles East now. We always talk about Arizona West, Pittsburgh West being in Arizona. Are we Chargers East, Tony Defeo?
It seems like it's turning into that. Yeah, there's four big names that they've acquired from them over the last, well, not four big names, but four names that they've acquired from them over the last 2 years. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting pipeline it's turning into out that way.
What's going on with that, Shannon White?
I think we're Phillip Rivers. They finally parted ways, and he'd been such a established leader for that team. Then they started similar to a rebuild, and some of their more high-priced guys they kind of allowed to move on. Say, especially after an injury, like say Ingram, because he looks like he's going to be a perfect fit in Pittsburgh with his versatility. And then you have, because they're kind of a lame duck franchise at the moment. They're playing in what looks like a glorified Texas high school stadium. And so they're in the process of trying to be relevant again. Of course, they have Herbert and Haberman and those Allen, and they have a lot of talent on offense, and they're building back. But I think that we've got some guys that maybe didn't pan out for them, but could very well flourish here in Pittsburgh.
So let's go to the live chat here. Some funny stuff on here, and not so funny stuff too. Steeler Nation 412 says Ingram got to stay healthy, and it's a huge win. Yeah, that is absolutely correct. And he is saying all the right things. He looks good. Wearing number 8.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've got a new favorite number 8 because it's Tommy Maddox, and he's always going to be a favorite. But now I've got a co-favorite number 8. The funniest thing that I wanted to mention, awesome stuff. 83 says, I bet that was Kiesel Diesel that scared you in the woods. Can you imagine Kiesel shaking my tent at 2:30 in the morning?
Especially if he had that beard. Yeah.
Derek Watt says Steeler Chick 46. Hope he is used better this year. And a lot of people agree with that. Who was it? Was it Brooke Pryor that made a mention on Derek Watt, how he caught a beautiful pass from Ben Roethlisberger?
He didn't catch it.
He did not catch it.
No, she was talking about, she didn't mention that he didn't catch it. She was saying that she was excited that they threw a wheel route to him because we never threw to the fullback. But when the was reported further, he didn't catch it. He dropped it, or it was incomplete.
Here's an interesting question here. Brian Brown asked this: has Ingram ever played middle linebacker? I think he has. He has been used mostly as an edge, and the Steelers have been moving him around on the as an edge and moving him all around in different packages so far in the couple of days that he's been here. Guys, do you know about if he has ever played in the middle?
Did you remember last year when they would have Watt and Highsmith kind of float into the middle a little bit right before the snap? And I think that's what they're doing with him at times, because he has kind of slid inside to rush in on the inner gap. He hasn't always stayed on the edge for the Chargers, but I don't know if he's been that far off the line. He'd be like, if the middle linebacker was coming up playing closer, pressuring the line, he's done that before.
I want to bring this one up. We're talking about the Chargers, the former Chargers. Garrett Slingerland, and he's absolutely right. Derek Watt wasn't bad. He just never got to play. Tony,
Yeah,
do you see the Matt Canada offense finding a way to mix him in?
I think they're going to try. Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to try to utilize anything he can. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that position this year, because it was basically phased out the last couple of years last few years under Haley and Fichtner. So, is Watt going to be a big part of the offense? Because he kind of was with the Chargers as far as catching the ball out of the backfield, right? Wasn't he pretty decent at that, in addition to being a special teams guy? So I think when you hear reports out of camp that they're using him on wheel routes, even though it wasn't completed, I think that's it's evidence that they're gonna try to utilize him a little bit more this year than they did last year, provided he stays healthy. That's the key.
All right, we've got a super chat from my man Snowman, and it's to you, Shannon White. I'll let you read that, my friend.
Oh, welcome, Mr. Shannon White, to YouTube side of the BTSC family. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Gosh, Shannon's been here. What is this, show number 6 now, Shannon?
It's 5 or 6. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're just losing track. So it's so great, and part of it, I just cannot wait to get into the season where Shannon is going to be. Shannon and Tony on the Hangover are going to be great together, because just analysis of games. I paint more of a picture, and these guys can analyze the games a whole lot better than I do. So I cannot wait to have those two together on this show. We've got a 3-pack. Speaking of 3-packs, guys, do you know what's happening this weekend? Speaking of 3-pack, on BTSC, we are debuting a new show.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm going to bring up one of those fellas, Chris Pugh. Chargers could be very underrated this year with the return of Derwin James on defense. I like the Chargers. I really do. Now, what Joe Frost, Paul Yanchek, they are going to be the Steelers Power Half Hour. That's going to be on the audio show. That is going to be on Saturdays on a time slot. Well, Tony, you used to be Saturdays at noon. Right. So we are going to have the Power Half Hour in the show. And if you did not get a chance to check out the curtain call with Jeffrey Benedict and Michael Beck last week, where they had guest Chris Carter on the show from DK, Chris was absolutely fantastic on the show. The second half, they had these 3 fellas, the Steelers Power Half Hour, Chris, Paul, and Joe on the show, talking about their upcoming show. We have new shows that we're going to debut as well, and they're all going to be on the audio side, so definitely check them out. The new shows. We also talked about another show, the new Jeffrey Benedict show that's going to be popping up in a few weeks on the audio side only. So it will be great to check that out. I saw Chris in the live chat. I wanted to bring him up as well. I was going to do that at the end of the show. Figured let's do it now. So check all that stuff, new stuff as we get ready for our new fall season. It's coming up. We're in training camp too, my friends. This is training camp. So Shannon, this is your 2-a-days. So we're doing 2 halves. This is your 2-a-day. So you need to be in shape for the season. And it's going to be like Casey Hampton. I'm going to make sure that you're in good shape.
It will be like Casey Hampton. Yes.
Yeah. If I have to sit you down because you're not conditioned for the whole week.
Just don't put a timer on that mile run.
What's that?
Don't put a timer on that mile run.
Yeah, don't worry.
I'm walking in the middle.
Tony is a runner, so we don't even have to worry about that.
Well, in theory.
So in theory, you're a runner.
Yeah, the groups that I always run with, I'm always dead last. I mean, so far behind, I don't even see anybody anymore. So that shows you how slow I am. Yeah.
As long as you're finishing, my man. So check that out, Chris. This week they're going to be talking about the 5 most crucial guys for the Steelers this season, and what they're going to be doing when we say Power Half Hour. They're going to do their own power rankings each and every week. It's going to be Steeler oriented, and they're going to be counting down So that'll be great. And you know me with Casey Kasem, I always love a good countdown. So this is going to be good. Power Half Hour, check that out, and check out all the BTSC shows as well. Let's get back into this now, guys. Let's bring up some players first that have shined. We're going to go around the room. Well, just with the two of you. And Tony, you made a mention to a guy earlier, and I'm pretty sure that you want to talk about Antoine Brooks. So what are your thoughts so far? Is Antoine Brooks a starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers based on what he's been doing so far, or is this just getting the man some extra work?
I think right now it's just getting him some extra work. They're trying to see what they have in him. If I remember correctly from last year, his draft profile, he seemed to be a player without a real position. That's kind of how they described them, from what I remember correctly. So, there's somebody that maybe can find himself a home. Like, he's versatile, obviously. If he's a man without a position, that means he can play hopefully several, maybe not well, but if he's if he can find a way to find a niche as a slot corner for them, well, I mean that solves a huge problem. I mean, he might not be Mike Hilton, but if he can play that role, and then you can slide Cam Sutton to the outside and leave him out there. I mean, I think that could be huge, but it's obviously too early to tell yet. I mean, it's as Shannon said, it's football without pads. So, but I'm going to be really interested to see what he does once the pads start popping, and of course once the preseason starts.
So Karen Broomsey says A. Brooks can hit, but coverage is suspect. Shannon, do you think Brooks is a legitimate candidate and could help push Cameron Sutton to the outside like Tony just said? Do you feel that this makes that defensive backfield so much stronger? And do you feel that we were discounting Antoine Brooks before this preseason started?
When I had to write the draft article about his selection, he was one of the highest rated tacklers, in college football. He's a sure tackler, excellent fundamentals of technique. He's very aggressive to the ball. His big weakness is coverage. And I think he run like a 4.64. But, guys can overcome that. The way the Steelers used Hilton, I think they would like to have Brooks because he'll be similar. Hilton, I thought, was weaker in coverage and he was better on everything else, but he got better in coverage as time went on. I like Arthur Millette at slot, and I think he's going to have a real shot at taking that position because he's very physical. He looks like Greg Lloyd, like a smaller version of Greg Lloyd. And he plays very aggressive. He's a good blitzer. And I think he'll end up better in coverage than Brooks. So I think they'll end up using kind of a committee approach, especially with sub packages, in certain situations. Because Brooks would be really good against heavy run teams like the Titans or the Ravens, because Brooks can really come up and pound that run defense. But, I think Brooks has got a real shot to make an impact this year. I just don't see him as the full-time starter.
Now, you brought up Arthur Millette, and Mike Tomlin's already saying Art. He's saying him a lot. What have you noticed from Millette, the other Jets defensive back, that everybody wanted Brian Poole, who looks like he's going to the Saints now as of today, possibly. Everybody wanted Brian Poole, but everybody wanted Malik Hooker in that defensive backfield as well. But when you have guys like Brooks and you have a guy like Arthur Millette, maybe that's why they didn't go look their way, because they knew what they had, Shannon.
Yeah, Millette, actually, the way they've played that slot in the past with Hilton, Millette is a better fit than Poole was. And he can actually play the slot or safety, so he gives them that position versatility. And I just think that's why he was brought in. And the people were talking about Hooker, but his injury tendencies, you can't count on that. It'd be great if it had worked out, but it was a big gamble. So I'm really happy with Millette.
You know what? Tony Defeo was so excited when the Steelers signed Arthur Millette because he thought his name was Mullet, and he had a great one in the 80s.
Yeah, those were the days.
I need, you know what? I need to see pictures of both Tony and Shannon White in high school. I need high school pictures of you guys. Well, me, I didn't change that much. I just had the mullet and my face was thinner, and that's about it. But I didn't change. I looked exactly like this, and just a lot of hair.
Well, back in the 80s, I looked like the guy that people say I am when they trash me online. That's how I looked when I was in my teen years with the hair and the clothes that I wore. So
I don't get that. Why are they trashing you online, Tony? I find you delightful.
Well, thank you. Yes. I don't know. I try to keep it down the middle when I talk about sports. So I don't know what it is. It's just probably
down the middle.
Yeah. So I don't know what it is. It's just some people just like to hate for no reason.
My gosh, Shannon White, you're in West Virginia. You have boots for that stuff. It's deep
like,
there sometimes.
I need waders for that. I need waders.
Yeah,
it's like Tony, it's like the Lone Sharks limousine driver in Rocky. He just hated Rocky for no reason.
We just got a Rocky reference too. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about other guys that are shining here or that we need to see something of. And I'm going to bring up, I think it's Jan, or it could be Jan. It could be Jan or Jan. I'm not sure if I could get it up. Why can't I get it up? Okay.
Forgive me for laughing at that.
It looks like I would say it's Jan. What do you think of Cassius Marsh? Have we heard anything about Cassius Marsh in the first 4 days so far, or has he been anonymous? Let's start with Tony.
I haven't heard anything. Who was the guy's name that they had the last couple of years? He was kind of a veteran, like late 20s. He was a backup linebacker.
Daney. Daney.
No. He was like
Chicolo.
Chicolo.
No, not him. He was I guess they kept signing him and
J-Ron Elliott.
J-Ron Elliott. That's kind of who Marsh reminds me of. Like he's kind of like that kind of talent. Yeah, but yeah, like if you want to include Chicolo and that too, I think that's a apt comparison because I guess they're dependent. They're capable, but they're not really capable of doing a whole heck of a lot other than just like filling in occasionally. But they're not going to make a lot of big plays. That's kind of what Marsh reminds me of.
All right. Hey, we got to do this because this is what kind of show this is. I got to bring up Portna here. Hucker, we're still talking about Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, that came out of the blue again.
I thought those were massage people.
Oh. I cannot confirm nor deny, and I don't know. All I know is if that's the truth, then Mr. Kraft in New England is hoping to sign Deshaun Watson next. Oh yeah, gosh, woo! We gotta stop that. Here's a guy to bring up, and so let me finish up with Cassius Marsh. I think Cassius Marsh makes this team. And I think he is your guy on special teams. And he reminds me a little bit. Now, he's bounced around a lot. But remember, nobody was counting on Robert Spillane much at all. And now Robert Spillane, who had a great interception, a one-handed interception on coverage on Ben Roethlisberger the other day. So, that was just a situation where now he's a guy that you're starting.
Yeah.
And you're not upset that you're starting the guy.
Right. Although he is a lot younger. So, yeah. Whereas, and he last year was his first real opportunity to show anything. Whereas Clay's been around for a while, so.
Oh gosh. Now we got the first Sapphire joke of the day of the live chat. I knew that would happen. Sapphire's got higher standards. God bless Sapphire. So, man, it's going off the rails. And
that's a good.
It's my fault here. Yeah, I am. E.M. Marcus he is. I'm being corrected here, and I think he's right, and I might have made a mistake. Was that interception on Mason Rudolph? Now I'm not quite sure. I'm almost thinking the Spillane's interception.
Yeah, it was on Rudolph. I'm pretty sure.
EM
Brooks picked off Ben the day before.
It was and Ben congratulated Brooks. EM Marcus 39. Thank you so much for that correction. I appreciate it. Man, sometimes it gets all up in that noggin and the cranium, and you mix some things up a little bit. So there you go. But and now we got awesome stuff. Says 5 outside linebackers with a question mark. Yeah, I think you keep a special teams guy.
Yeah, and that's like if you're talking about some of the young guys that you want to see something out of, somebody that might be intriguing. It's Roche, because he was so productive at Temple and he showed promise last year at Miami. And you're like, why is this guy a 6th-round pick? He was pretty decorated in college. So there's somebody that, I mean, if he really dominates the competition in the preseason, I mean, he can make a big name for himself and make this roster. And who knows, maybe push out a guy like Clay. But like you said, they might keep 5, one for, and Clay might be the special teams guy.
So the top 3, of course, TJ, Melvin, Highsmith. Highsmith, let me put him second in that conversation because those are your 2 starters. Then Melvin. Melvin's going to see a lot of action. Mm-hmm. And remember how often you see TJ with oxygen towards the end of the game, because he and that's not a rip on him. He needs a break. I mean,
right?
They're not designed. They're not designed to. They're designed to get a break. They really are. Roche, we're saying Roche number 4. And then number 5, I mean, I think they kind of look at that special teams guy as they just add him on because Jordan Dangerfield was there. He was marked as a safety, but he was not considered a safety. Mm-hmm. He didn't play at safety.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he was special teams only. So that's kind of the way you look at it there. Now, guys, we've talked about guys that have shown up. Some guys we weren't expecting to show up. Who would be your 2 most important guys that really need to show up? And I'm thinking of 2 guys on offense right now. And they were not on this team last year. Tony, we'll start with Shannon.
Well, the way the line is set up, I would have to say Trey Turner. Is it Trey or it is Trey, right?
Trey.
TRA. I didn't know if I was saying it right.
Yeah.
Trey Turner. And I'm just hoping that Green ends up winning the starting center position. Because, Freiermuth has been a star of camp so far. And he looks like he could be a complete, well-rounded number 1 tight end for the Steelers going down the road. But the line is even more important at the moment, and that's why that Turner needs to have a rebound season, and Green needs to really shine as a starting center. And I'll feel a whole lot better about the rest of the line if those 2 guys can come through.
Tony, I don't disagree. That's exactly who I was thinking there, but I'm thinking of another guy. And he's been in the news a lot lately for something that happened in his personal life.
Haskins?
Dwayne Haskins needs to show up to keep his job.
Yeah, definitely.
and if he really shows up and he shows that 1st-round pedigree in the preseason, and that might be something to keep in mind for next year.
The interesting thing about Dwayne Haskins is the Steelers don't need him to show up as much as Dwayne Haskins needs Dwayne Haskins to show up.
Right.
So they're in that position. The Steelers are in the position that if anything's gravy, they can get a fine. I mean, this is no risk, all reward. Mm-hmm. So if he shows up, it's going to be fantastic. And that's going to be great. But for him, he's got everything riding on this. So another guy to go ahead and look at on defense, somebody that I'm thinking of, and Anthony Perkins brought it up, and he's asking questions about a certain safety. Terrell Edmonds, what are your thoughts? Have we heard anything about Terrell? And how crucial is this for number 34? Let's start with Tony.
I haven't heard anything yet, but I think obviously it's a big year for him because they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so he's obviously has a lot to prove. He's going to be motivated, you would think. But I mean, he's gotten steadily better every year since his rookie year, and the thing that I love about him the most is they can't get him out of the lineup. He's been durable, and they haven't had to bench him. You remember Artie Burns? He was eventually benched right by his. I mean, I loved Art. I was really excited about him after his rookie year, and then he just kind of went downhill. Whereas you haven't seen that with Terrell Edmonds, and I think. What's that saying? Water meets its own level or something like that. Or cream rises to the top, whatever I'm trying to say. I mean, after 3 years, if he wasn't capable of playing in the NFL, if he was a true liability, like a lot of people think he is, I think they would have found a way to get him out of the lineup by now. So I think, he's gotten better every year. And I think, until he shows otherwise, I'm going to have confidence that he's going to continue to improve heading into his 4th year because he's still really, really young. I mean, was he 23, 24, something like that? So,
Shannon White, 2-part question. 1, Terrell Edmonds, is he a Steeler in 2022? And 2, Shannon White, Terrell Edmonds, if he was a 2nd-round draft pick, would the Steelers fans feel different about the man from Virginia Tech?
If he'd have been picked in the 2nd round, even early in the 2nd round, people would be raving about what a great player he is.
right.
I'm on. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of the young man. Great teammate, selfish, does the dirty work. He's kind of Ryan Clark, in that combination with Fitzpatrick being Polamalu. He does the dirty work. His speed is such that especially after Bush went out last year, Edmonds made so many tackles and it prevented some big plays just because he could cover so much ground.
Right.
And he become easily our best cover guy on tight ends.
Yeah.
He was shutting guys down. And, when the guys had like a big beginning of the game, first half, it was usually because he wasn't on them. And if they rolled him over on them, he shut them down. I think that I have heard about him so far at camp. Terrell Austin, the DB coach, he's talked about him and said that he's looking great and he's looking comfortable and he's really extra motivated because he's playing for a contract now.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully he has a big season, but if he has a really big season, he might just play himself out of our price range. But it's a gamble. You want to do that. They did it with Bud, and then you could always franchise tag him. But I wish, like you said, Brian, that he would have been a 2nd-round pick because he's always being judged by for what he isn't and who he isn't, and not appreciated for what he is.
I cannot say that better. I'm a fan of number 34 myself. Mm-hmm. I really hope he does well. And you mentioned dirty work. Mm-hmm. You cannot have 11 stars on a defense. You cannot have 11 stars on the offense. You need complementary players to superstars too. Mm-hmm. You need those guys because I think a Terrell Edmonds makes some Minkah Fitzpatrick better.
Oh yeah.
I think Minkah makes Edmonds better as well. So that's one of the things to look at. And I think we get lost in the fact that with a 1st rounder, we need them to be superstars in our minds. When I look back, I'm looking back at the last 20 years, and there's a lot of guys that were very good picked in that position. And there's only about 3 guys that we would return. And Artie Burns is one of them. The other one right away that I'm going to say is, of course, Jarvis Jones. Mm-hmm. And a guy that had a decent career in this league, but only 3 years with Pittsburgh would be Evander Ziggy Hood. So those are probably the and Hood wasn't a horrible 1st-round pick. And the funny thing about Burns is we were excited about him after his rookie year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He actually
looked
had
decent. Yeah.
he had a decent rookie year, and then it just fell apart for him. But with that being said, there's one more guy that I want to bring up, and somebody in the live chat brought him up, and I think it was Clarence that brought him up. And if I'm wrong, you can correct me. I thought it was Clarence, but the guy I want to talk about is one Marcus Allen. What have we heard about Marcus Allen so far, Tony?
I honestly have not heard a whole lot from him either. But I was really impressed last year how he made the transition fully from safety to inside linebacker. And there's a guy that, they've been looking for that sort of dime linebacker player, the guy who could play safety and dime linebacker for them. And he seemed like he really came on last year at the end of the year. And I think that bodes well for his future, and that bodes well for their depth at that position, inside linebacker.
Shannon White, there's another question that we had. Has anybody heard anything about the darling of the draft, the guy that Jeff Hartman already has a poster on his wall, and I think he's invited him to the Hartman house for Christmas, one Percy Harvin III?
I haven't. I know that the initial depth chart has him, as the number 2 behind Barry, and but I think he has a shot. It's going to depend on how he looks every day at camp and in the preseason. But about Marcus Allen, if I can backtrack just a second, I think Allen has a uphill battle, honestly, just from the fact that he's kind of a hybrid, even though now he's saying he's pretty much an inside linebacker now. But you got Killebrew that they brought in, who's a very good special teams player, but he could play a little inside linebacker, especially in sub package, and he could play some safety to back up Edmonds maybe. And I'm the guy who's always screaming Ulysses Gilbert III, because if he could ever stay healthy, he's the perfect backup for Bush. But he just hasn't shown that. And, so I'm still got my fingers crossed. If Gilbert is injured again, I think Marcus Allen has a path. But I think if Gilbert could somehow stay healthy, and then I think Gilbert would end up getting that with Buddy Johnson backing up Spillane. And now they can always keep that 5th guy, but they might want to keep a guy who has position flexibility and is a hybrid like Killebrew. So he could be a threat to Allen.
He absolutely can. And I want to correct myself. Clarence gave credit to Donald Nolan on that one. And Donald, I'm sorry. I knew it was somebody that we knew well in the live chat, and I did make a mistake there. The joke in the live chat right now is Brian Brown put this up, and I'll go ahead and put this up on the screen. Jeff's head is going to explode if Barry wins the punter job. Guys, is Barry going to win this job?
I've learned not to count him out. Yeah.
He's got 9 lives.
Right. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's the Daniel McCullers thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm actually going to say that Harvin's going to make it. And don't worry about the depth chart. Now, I have a theory that most rookies are not going to be number 1 on the depth chart. It's very rare that they are. Now we have Najee Harris that is number 1 on the depth chart, but that's a completely different situation.
Yeah,
that was an open spot, and you almost need to put him number 1 on the depth chart for where he was picked, and you're not going to have intentions to start anybody in front of him, and it would almost be insulting to say that you have to win the job when you expect him to win the job. Yes, he has to win the job. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But that's kind of a different situation there. But when we're looking at Kendrick Green, you're not going to put him. You need to dangle the carrot for a Kendrick Green. You need to dangle the carrot for any of those other guys to make them fight for the job. You just don't hand them number 1 on the depth chart until you see him in action. Najee, still a different story. Well, Harris, from everything we've heard, he doesn't need any motivation. I mean, He's got his head in the playbook and he's doing extra work. Like you said, you want to dangle the carrot, but Harris, he doesn't need extra motivation, thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys that are picked up high. Quarterbacks are a different story because you usually don't want to put, if you don't have to put them, if you can have a veteran start while they sit and learn, especially the Patrick Mahomes treatment, which worked out really well. Right. If you can go ahead and do something like that, that works out well.
Mm-hmm. It kind of reminds me of when Le'Veon Bell came in as a second round pick. He came in head and shoulders above anybody they had on the roster, and they kind of handpicked him to be their starter, and they had plans for him right from the get go, and that's kind of how they played it out. They actually held him out a lot in preseason that year with injury. Like he had like a bruised knee or something his very first game and didn't even play. So I kind of think, it's Najee Harris's job to lose, and I can't see him losing it.
All right, guys, stop the presses. I got to bring this up. Michael O'Malley. If Barry wins, I'll call Tanya Harding. She's from my state, and I know her. Stop the presses. I
can't see that.
I had a huge crush on Tanya Harding back in 1994.
I had a big crush on Nancy Kerrigan.
Yeah, she was cute, but there's something about the bad girl I liked. Michael O'Malley. I gotta meet Tanya Harding. That is now. That is now. I'm not leaving Mrs. Bad. Don't worry about that. And did I just put Mrs. Bad's legs in danger?
I was going to say, yeah. I mean,
no.
If you try Tanya Harding too much, you might have put, yeah.
I gotta meet Tanya Harding. That'd be awesome. Or just have her on the show. There we go. I make that happen, Michael O'Malley. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Wow. I can't pull that up.
This whole podcast is going to be what's it called?
Demonetized.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, like it's going to be used as evidence.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Forensic evidence.
Let's just hope that's the soft drink, and that's all.
There you go. Yeah. I like Pepsi myself.
All right. Let's. Maybe I don't want to meet her. With that being said, hey, it was a fun episode. Next time we talk, we're going to be 3 days away from a football game. It's going to be exciting. Thanks so much for welcoming me back this week. Steelers Pittsburgh thinks Nancy Kerrigan is hot. There you go. And Michael's claiming statute of limitations.
Fair enough.
All right. So with that, I better get on out of here. And you guys, we all need to go into the witness protection program now. So with that being said, for Jeffrey Benedict and Michael Beck, I'm Dave Schofield. And we have 3 things that we would like you to do. 1, stay safe. Be safe. 2, I don't even know what I'm saying.
Be good to yourself, right? Is that it?
Be true to yourself.
Be true to yourself. There you
go. Yeah. Michael, stop. Quit elaborating. Now people are asking the private message, Michael. Oh, all right. You know what? Forget the rest.
He's off the rails.
Somebody quote Roddy Piper. And let's get out of here. Just when you think you got all the answers, Shannon.
We kept changing the questions.
All right. Good night. Woo! Oh, we got extra. We got some Ric Flair in there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go.